Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are in and about to start our final bonus session of the workshop. I'm so excited to introduce to you a new friend, Rachel Farnsworth, and Rachel is joining us from the UK. And she is a rapid transformational therapy practitioner and a Reiki master. And a little bit about Rachel. What she does and her mission in life is to work with individuals, and she's actually had incredible experiences, and she saves people from a lifetime of physical and emotional pain by working directly with their subconscious mind and really tapping into the power of that subconscious in a variety of different areas and in different circumstances within someone's life. She specializes in releasing and reversing anxiety, PTSD, CPTSD, depression, and physical issues, including autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, and a whole host of other challenges and physical illnesses. So, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. I know that was a brief introduction, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, maybe how you got into what you're doing, and share a little bit about that with our audience.
Hi, Alexis. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Well, it's really weird actually how I got into this. I was in a pattern of toxic relationships, which I hadn't actually realized I was in. My kids had decided they didn't want to live with me anymore. It wasn't really me, it was the stepdad they didn't want to live with. And so they'd gone and lived with their dad. And I remember just sitting on the bed. That was that day that they left, and I sat on the bed and I was just so broken and lost. My husband at the time was just downstairs tutting away of what I was, what sort of pain I was in. He was just so dismissive of it, and I was on the bed. I wanted to change the sheets and just sort of keep busy, but I couldn't. I was howling like a wolf and just felt so broken and lost. And I had a spiritual medium friend turn, she sort of rang me out of the blue. We went to school together, and sort of the divine intervention, I guess. So she came in and spoke to me and just said, come away for the weekend with me. So we did, and we just had a really good brainstorming session. Because she'd known me since I was about 11, she was just saying, I've always thought psychotherapy was a good thing for you to do. And I was like, oh, that sounds a bit boring. What do you do with that when you qualify? So I decided to go into counselling, and which was I found a local face-to-face group that I could train in counselling. But the thing was that you had to do hypnotherapy as the first year, and I really wasn't interested in that at all. I just thought I'd sleepwalk through that bit and then do the counselling in year 2. But the teacher didn't turn up in the second lesson. So I started, and the first lesson was actually quite interesting, more interesting than I imagined it was going to be. So I started Googling hypnotherapy, and up popped Marissa Pierre. Well, Marissa Pierre is the lady who's trained in this method. So, and the more she spoke, she's on Mind Valley and all sorts of things. And the more she spoke to me, I was like, oh, wow, she's making so much sense. And then my little head was going, oh, I need to train in this, but when? And I can't do both. I've got to do both. I've got to do this. And so I was just driving myself crazy. So I ended up doing both courses simultaneously. And everybody on the hypnotherapy course was going, what's going on with you, Rachel? You are changing every time we see you. Because it was like a month, every month we were getting together. And they said, every time we see you, look so different. You came in October all sort of trembling and not being able to stand up and talk. And now you're just delivering whatever you need to do really confidently. And I was like, yeah, well, I've kind of got a little toolkit in my bag now. And so I actually qualified in June 2018, just before I qualified in my hypnotherapy other qualification. So yeah, that's how I fell into it. And then, do you want me to tell you the next bit about my daughter?
Yes, absolutely. I love this.
So the next thing was, so I qualified in June 2018, and in October 2018, my daughter, who had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when she was a year old, she's now 14. She's going to go back on methotrexate, which is a cancer drug, and have steroid injections. And that drug, we both knew, meant that she was going to be injecting herself every weekend, feeling really sick all week, dreading the weekend, and rinse and repeat all the way through. And she'd just been on an 8-week drug. She'd come off 8 weeks before off the methotrexate. She'd had 2 years of drug-induced remission. So they said, oh yes, you can come off, you may have outgrown it. And of course she hadn't. So now we're looking at going back on that methotrexate. So we kind of felt that we're in a false hope. And I was talking in the Rapid Transformational Therapy Forum of just like, oh, I'm trained in this method now. Do you think I can make a physical illness disappear? They're like, yeah, of course you can. Marissa's done it. Why can't you? Well, I'm not Marissa. So I decided that, well, why not? If it's going to take me 50 sessions, it was worth a go, wasn't it? You know, rather than watch my daughter, I'd rather stick it in that needle in my own eye than watch her go through that, quite frankly. So it's just like, it's worth a session. So we had this session. She was upstairs. We had the session on the bed, and everything is always an emotion lying behind those physical conditions. Even if you believe it's genetic, there's still an emotion behind it, because genetics is only about 25% of what makes us human, what makes us real, so it's still able to get rid of that anyway. But so anyway, we did this session, and the role, function and purpose, which everything has got a role, function and purpose, even when you don't want it. Your subconscious believes it's there for a reason. And for her, it was, I need pain in order to connect. And connection is a major thing in tribal times, because our minds are still wired as tribe people. So if she'd been rejected as a little kid, she would have probably been thrown out and had to fend for herself and kill that saber-toothed tiger on her own, which of course she couldn't do. So, that would probably mean sudden death. So she needed pain to be like everybody else. And in the session, I was like, I don't follow you. Whose pain? So she said, oh, well, my cousin, she's got cancer, which she had. Her other cousin had got hernia, and her brother had got asthma, but all three of them, fortunately, were better. But even if they weren't, she could see that her pain wasn't helping their pain. And so she was able to release it. And our subconscious minds love pictures and imagery. So I said to her, what do you need to do to let go of it? So she just said, I just need to tie it to a pink helium balloon and watch it float away. And that's what she did. And she said, I felt a click in my joints and in my head as it left. And she has been pain-free, symptom-free, medication-free, which is even better, free since then. And of course, the doctors are sort of thinking, oh, she just outgrew it. But of course, how can you outgrow something when you're in the middle of a flare-up? You don't suddenly switch it off. But that's what happened. And she's not ever gone back, and she's just living life the way she wants to. She's studying hairdressing now, and she's wanted to be a hairdresser since almost before she could walk. And so now she's actually living that dream that she wants to. She can hold her scissors, she can stand up, she can do all the stuff that we really didn't think she was going to be able to do. And it's just so empowering. And because of her, I've then realized I've got to get out my own way and tell more people about how powerful our subconscious minds are. Yes, this is a method that works, but there are other ways of doing it. Emotional, really energy healing and all that sort of stuff is also a thing. This is just one way of doing it, but it's a really powerful way, and it doesn't take years and years of come back next week and talk about your pain. It's about releasing it, so you've got chance to live that life that you want to on your terms.
It's incredible. That story is, I find it absolutely fascinating. And, not that I have never experienced something quite like that, but I have always done, even just in stressful times, things like that. I have to picture whatever my problem is, whatever I'm dealing with. I have to put it into a picture. And this is going to sound crazy to some people, but when I do breathing exercises, I actually imagine myself breathing that picture. Like if it's like a fight with my husband, or if I don't know, whatever it is, I'm really upset about something, I have to put it into pictures. And when I breathe, I imagine myself breathing it out. And it is one of the only things that can almost instantly, within minutes, literally calm my nervous system. I can feel it, like a physical, not just that mental, stress or that mental feeling. It's like I can feel it in my body release. So that's just like such a small thing. I can only imagine, and I'm not trained in anything like that. So but I know that works for me, and I know how powerful and how fast acting that is. And
because
so
you're letting go of all that stress. That's what you're doing by giving that picture to your mind and seeing it release. You're
Yeah.
letting go of it, and that is perfect. That's exactly what you need to do. So well done.
So, well, thank you. That is amazing. So we could go, and I know that you have worked with so many people, and you've had success with so many, a real variety of different individuals suffering from different things. What I'd love to tap in and get some of your expertise in and share some information around how can our subconscious either help us or hinder us in our pursuit of success. So in our group here, we've got a lot of leaders, business owners, individuals who are wanting to make that step, leaving corporate and going into owning their own business, or rise through the ranks in the companies that they're in, but sometimes find themselves stuck. So I believe, we talk a lot about mindset. Marina and I, it's a really big thing is working through different mental blocks. I'd love your take on the subconscious's role in success and that pursuit of success.
Yeah, well, your mind moves you away from pain towards pleasure. So if you're telling yourself that, oh, emails are killing me, or I've got so much work to do, it's killing me, I can't stand the commute, it's killing me, your mind's going, oh, leave that with me, I'll make you sick, I'll keep you in bed, you can stay at home, in the days when we used to go out to work. And so it's taking you from pain to pleasure. So if, say, you want to write a book and you're finding it so tedious, oh, I've got to write another chapter today, you change those pictures in your mind, make them powerful. So I can't wait to write this book, I can't wait for it to be a bestseller, I'm really so excited, my mind is just so, it's going to come up with all the right words, I'm just going to get everything down on paper. And already you're installing those better beliefs, and you if you do what you don't want to do first, you've set yourself up for the day as well. So get that chapter written, and then you can go and do something more pleasurable that you want to do. And your mind responds to the words and pictures you install. So just like you were saying, by envisaging that emotion that you didn't want, that scene that was upsetting you, and you've seen yourself breathe it away, your mind's letting go of all that tense emotion, because it can see in your mind that you're letting go. So it's a perfect analogy of actually doing that. That's brilliant. And your mind doesn't care what you say is good or bad, indifferent, true or false. It takes everything in. It's not got a sense of humor. So if you tell yourself you're fat, you're ugly, you can't do this, you're stupid, guess what? It believes you. So tell yourself more positive stuff. I'm amazing. I've got phenomenal coping skills. Everything I need is within me. I can do this. It's far a better story than the other one, isn't it? So you just
Absolutely.
switch it around. I can do this. I've got phenomenal coping skills. And that in itself, just that saying, can switch feeling anxious to feeling, oh, I've got this. Even that, I've got this, feels better. So you can switch the stories. When you're feeling anxious, what stories am I telling myself? How have I got in this state? What have I been talking to myself about? What have I been saying? And because every thought you think causes a physical reaction and emotional response.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
And what about imposter syndrome? This is something we've talked about a lot. And I guess my curiosity was kind of piqued in this discussion is when it's something that you want to pursue, you want to write the book and it's stopping you. You want to ask that person out and it's stopping you. But what if it's just this sort of overwhelming and underlying feeling of just a lack of worth, and you don't really realize, but it's actually stopping you from all the opportunities that are possibly in front of you, and you don't even know that they're there because you're already limiting yourself to even see them. How might somebody address something or start that healing journey?
that's true, actually, because we just take it on board that that's who we are. But
Yeah.
actually, it's more of a fear of rejection. It's a fear of being visible. Fear of rejection is where it all stems. And it's a bit like, there is a story in there that's happened to you, because when we're born, we're all born confident. You're sitting in your pushchair, your pram, your stroller, whatever you want to call it, and you're somebody's looking at you and you don't go, oh, don't look at me, my diaper's full, I'm having a bad hair day, look at my milk spot. They don't do that. They just smile, that toothless smile, and kick their legs and just enjoy all that attention. But somewhere, somehow, your mind has switched that off because you've started to feel you're not good enough. So that's what I help people do, actually, is go back to where that all began. And I needed that for myself too, because I wanted to talk in public. And I did an anxiety workshop back when we did it live and in person. And I introduced myself the week before, like, next week, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I stood up telling myself all the way through somebody else's presentation, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. I've got this. It's fine. All that stuff. I stood up and it sounded like I was having an asthma attack. I couldn't breathe. And I just thought, I'm going to have to do something about myself here, because if I don't, no one's going to sit and pay to listen to me sounding like I'm having an asthma attack for an hour and a half, are they? Let's be honest. And so I had the session on me, and it was about me being 5 years old, standing up in class. I'd completely forgotten about all this, but using the method, it takes you back, because your subconscious mind has been recording everything since you were born or even before that. So it's like a locked filing cabinet that you can't access on your own. So we just go back to 3 scenes. It's all to do with how, when, and why. And one of those scenes was I was 5 years old. I was stood up in class. The teacher asked me a maths question, really simple one, 10 pence take away 7 pence. And I was so thrilled with myself because I knew the answer, and I was just 5. So it's 3 pence. I still know the answer. But it was, I had to find a 3 pence. I had to find the change in the coin tray. And I was looking for a 3 pence piece, which doesn't exist. So it felt like I was decades just rummaging through this plastic coin tray, and everybody started jiffling in their seats and murmuring, and I couldn't work out what I was doing wrong, until the teacher stopped and said, what are you looking for? And that's when I realized. But everybody was laughing, the teacher was laughing, I felt stupid, and I just wanted to, quite frankly, just run away and never ever go back. And so that was a really painful experience for 5-year-old me. And I'd forgotten that, gone through life without knowing that. I actually worked in the bank for 18 years. So, I got over that maths problem. But my subconscious was still going, oh my God, can't you remember when you were 5, how embarrassing that was? You can't stand up in public. You really can't do that. And so that's what it was doing. And so just by having that session, then the following week, I was able to deliver that. No problem at
Wow.
all. Like I'd never had the problem in the first place. And that's how quick it is. When you rewire that subconscious, everything changes quickly, easily, and permanently, which is even better.
That's incredible. And probably every single person listening, watching now, watching the replay, you've had an experience in your life that didn't maybe go as planned, that was embarrassing or was stressful. And I always think too, like my family, we love to like reminisce about the past, and every so often, my parents or my cousin will like share a story, and I'll be like, I don't remember that. And as they're telling, it's like the memories are just being pulled out, but I would have never in a million years been able to share that story. But then as soon as somebody reminds you and you start talking about it, all of a sudden you're like, yes. And wasn't that guy from down the street there? And didn't you have on a red shirt? And all of a sudden the details come back. And it's one thing when it's a great, a nice story, a lovely, memory. But what happens when it's, like you said, a really traumatic experience, right? Especially as a child, no one wants to be laughed at, and you're probably still figuring out what all that means, what those feelings mean, and it gets buried in how it shows up. Yeah, later in
Yeah,
life.
and the thing is, at that age, you can't rationalize. You
Mhm.
just take it on. So, even if whether your parents were fabulous parents or not, whether the teacher was a fabulous teacher or not, you can't blame them. You haven't got that mindset to rationalize. So it's got to be your fault. So
Yeah.
the only thing you think of is, well, I'm stupid and I can't do this and I'm whatever. And in actual fact, talking about stories, one of my stories my mum used to tell every year around my birthday was that I didn't know how to be born because I was feet first. And so mum used to say, look, this is my cesarean scar and blah, blah, blah. And this is how. And so my subconscious was going, oh, if I don't know how to be born, I shouldn't be living. And if I no one can know this story because, you know, I'm probably going to get killed or something. And it was such a, you know, it wasn't meant to be a horrible story, but my subconscious took it on as a, I don't know how to be born. I can't live. You know, everybody else is better than me, I guess.
Right.
So I was that shy kid who couldn't speak up ever.
Wow. And when did that change for you?
When I qualified in this method, and then I realised it didn't actually come up as part of an RTT session, but it was something that came up after I'd had one. It's like, oh, that story, that's not very, is it? That must have had a dramatic, you know, and it did have a big effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
So we've all been
Wow.
told those sort of stories. You know, at school, you're stupid, or, you know, you'll never amount to anything. That kind of stuff, and we don't question it. We can't question it. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't question our parents' ability to parent us either, you know. So it must be our fault that we're unlovable if you haven't got people that tell you you're lovable. It must be me
Right.
that's not lovable, yeah? And that's a huge wound.
Mm-hmm.
So we've all had those limiting stuff, that story put on us that we're just carrying around as a label that we don't even know we're wearing.
Absolutely. And so what is the first thing somebody can do if they are realizing, or if even in this conversation that they're hearing and something has bubbled up for them? What's one thing that they can do to sort of start that healing for themselves, or maybe even just explore it more if they had to?
I'd say journaling is a really big thing. Just change that story, you know, write it down, and but not the old story, that new empowering one, because your mind learns by repetition. That's another rule of the mind. So keep putting it, you know, I am powerful, I am clever, I am smart, and the words that follow I am follow you. So, you know, those words are really powerful. And just having I am enough on your mirror, and you see that every day, that, you know, when you clean your teeth, you tell yourself all those positive words that you want to hear instead of all that
Mm,
negative self-talk. You know, clean your teeth, I'm smart, I'm clever, and look at yourself when you're doing it, looking eye to eye contact, and that's really empowering. And your mind, like I said, it learns by repetition. So the more you do it, the more you start believing it, because you're believing all that old negative stuff. So why not make yourself believe the positive instead? It's far better.
yes, absolutely. My head is just like, my mind goes every time we chat. I'm just like, it is so fascinating. You wonder what you know, not that you go looking for bad things, but you wonder about, you know, what are those stories that maybe we don't think of them as stories. They just seem like fact to us. They just
Mm,
seem like it is what it is. This is how I am, and this is how I do things, and these are the expectations, and this is what I'm worth. And at the end of the day, it is stories that we've created and bought into, right? And,
bought
and, and
into,
sort of just
yeah. Well,
put into life.
it's like the money story, isn't it? Everybody's got a money story, haven't they? Of I
Mhm,
can't earn more than my dad, or I, you know, money is the root of all evil, and all that stuff. We've all bought into that.
mhm,
So it's the same sort of stuff, you know, that you were born with a blank canvas, where you were just limitless. But
mhm.
all that, it's true, isn't it? We are all limitless. We can all achieve whatever we want to achieve, but we've all been given this, well, you can't do that because you're no good at maths, or you can't do that, or who do you think you are? People like us don't do whatever, coaching or whatever it is. People like us, who do you think you are? You know, and actually, I was working with a client a few weeks ago who, this was a really powerful thing. It was just a mini hour session. So we'd done the RTT session, and then I do 3 little mini sessions to sort of really get through those blocks that she wanted to clear. And she said, I've still got that thought that I can't um, be that coach that I want to be. So we had a look at that, and it was because all her male ancestors were holding her back, going, no, we're farmers. We have to get up at 4 o'clock and milk the cows. And we don't do that. We don't do coaching in our family. But I didn't really have to do anything. Once she saw that was the story, she actually dialogued with them and said, well, actually, you know, we're not farmers anymore, and I need to actually be able to make a living, if you don't mind. So she was sort of talking to them, and they're going, yeah, actually, we're with you on this journey. She said she saw in her own mind's eye them standing behind her with their pitchforks and all the other farm implements that they'd got in their hands, and they were walking with her, and they gave her permission to be the CEO of her family. It was such an incredible thing. And
Wow.
there they, so there she is in front going, yes, we're doing this, and they're just going following behind with all their farm implements going, yeah, we're right behind you. And isn't that incredible? And that was just an hour of, probably even 45 minutes. I don't know. Didn't time it, but it was just a very brief session of
Yeah.
getting to that little extra something that she just felt that she needed to get rid of, that she didn't realize why it was there or what it was there. So yeah, it's incredible of
Wow.
how we've been held back.
Yeah, and what would you say? So if someone says, "Well, that sounds nice," but how? Like, it almost sounds too simplistic to just tell myself to change. What is, in your opinion, what is sort of the key um, that allows this to be as powerful as it is? Is it like, does it have to do with like visualizing it, or getting yourself in that place? Like, I guess what I'm, because there's a lot of I don't want to say critics, but people who, when you talk about positive daily affirmations, we know that they work, but there's always someone who says, if I just repeat it to myself, and we know if you don't believe it, if you don't sort of sit in we always say, if you don't sit in the emotion of it, you could do gratitude practices all day long, but if you don't
I was just
actually
going to say that.
feel grateful, it's not. So is it a similar thing, I guess, as what I'm
It
asking you?
is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And what I would say, if you just wanted a free takeaway, is to get your phone, record your own voice, and just tell yourself all the things that you want to do. I'm going to make X amount this year, or all that sort of thing. And I can do this, this, and this, because your mind learns by repetition and your subconscious mind is always listening. So do yourself a 10-minute recording of what you want, and talk in the present moment, because your mind only understands the present, not the future. So what you want, I am this multi-million pound, worth $1 million or whatever it is you want, and you talk in the present, record it, and then play it in bed at night. Put your headphones in if you want to, so you don't disturb your partner, and just keep playing it at least for 3 weeks, because your mind learns by repetition, and your mind believes everything you tell it. And if you're telling it yourself, what better way? So
Hmm.
yeah, do yourself a recording and listen to it. It's that hypnotherapy for yourself, really.
And how long would you have to listen to it for? Just listen to the recording once each night?
No, yeah, once each night for about 3 weeks, 3, 4 weeks, or longer, as long as you want to. It's yours. You can change it, you can
Yeah.
update it, upgrade it. Yeah, that's what I do.
I have big dreams, Rachel. So I am gonna practice this, and I'm gonna do it today,
Well,
and
put
I'm
it
gonna listen to
down.
it today.
Yeah, let me know how you get on. I can't wait to hear.
I will. I have a practice that I do that I've shared with our members before. That I have a journal, and I do a gratitude. I write 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning, and then 5 dreams, and I write them as though I've already achieved them. And it
Mhm,
is a very powerful practice for me, because as I'm writing them, I'm thinking about, like, I'm already
mhm.
feeling and living in that moment. But I think hearing
Yeah.
myself say it is going to be even more powerful. I'm going to add this
Mm.
to my nightly
Yeah, I
routine.
think.
I'm excited to try it.
Yeah. And if you fall asleep, it doesn't matter, because your subconscious is always listening. So,
Yeah.
it's work without work. It's perfect. It's what I do, actually, as part of my work, is that people get a recording, personalized recording, to listen to for 3 weeks as well. So you're doing part of that work. You're rewiring your own mind. Brilliant.
Wow. And can you share? I know we've talked a little bit, and I shared a little bit in your introduction, but and your daughter's case. But what are some of the other areas that that you have helped other clients recover from? I know we have a couple people in our group that have shared with us that they do struggle with autoimmune diseases and some other illnesses. I'd love for you just to share really quickly, sort of what your experience has been with some of them, so that we can provide your details, and they can connect with you, if they choose to.
Yeah, well, they can choose. Yeah, if they want to, I can always just give them some information, and they've got their choice of to whether they want to or not. I've worked with lots of things. I think the second thing I worked with for physical illness was psoriasis, and it was a man who didn't even believe that I could do it. He thought I was going to turn into a chicken, and so I just said to him, "Look, come and have a session. Let's just do it." And his was about, it's quite weird. Well, it's not weird actually, 'cause it's how your mind works, but um, psoriasis is angry skin, and it was all about trapped anger in the session. He was angry at his brother, and then he broke his leg, and even though his leg had healed about 15 years before, the psoriasis was still there. And at the end of the session, he felt it release him. He just needed a cleansing bath while we were doing it to release it. And he just said, "What the did you just do?" Because he knew it had gone. And I've got his pictures are on my website of before and then 2 weeks later, and the difference is incredible. I've worked with non-alcoholic fatty liver, and he's actually had a scan for before and after. The before was just before, about, it was 10 point something, I can't remember, 10.8 I think, but it was definitely 7.2 with the after, and that was a week or 10 days after. And the 7.2 is still slightly high as a CT scan, but it's still within normal range. I've worked with chronic lung conditions. I've worked with 2 of those, and the first one, well, both of them actually, but the first one particularly was so, she was like, "Oh, I can breathe," and she could actually hold her breath after that initial 2-hour session. And that was about being the youngest child, that she had to play the role of being sick in order to get attention. That was what her subconscious had very kindly for her come up with, because, you know, being one of 12, she needed to have attention somewhere. So that's what her subconscious mind had sort of come up with. Obviously, it's not a conscious decision. What else have I worked with? Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, IBS, hypothyroid, um, sweaty hands and feet. You were talking about having a lady that you knew, and I've worked with that. That went really quickly. That was a bit weird actually. It was about having needing friends in order to connect with people, and she felt that she hadn't got the friends that she wanted. She wasn't that, she's a teenager, and she hadn't got the friends that she thought would supported her. So every time she felt that was that warmth in her hands meant that she was connected to something. That was how her mind was working on that. So we could see what it was about and release it. Oh my goodness, I have worked with one cancer client as well, and he's in remission. I've worked with several autoimmune diseases. So yeah, there's always a role and function. There's always an emotional pain lying behind those physical symptoms. So it's just about finding out where it all began and releasing it. It just, it is really simple and effective. But when you work with your subconscious mind, anything's possible, because your subconscious mind drives 95% of everything we do. So it is those limiting beliefs. It is all that, when you breathe, you don't think about breathing. You don't think about your heart pumping. Your subconscious mind is controlling all that. So we're tapping into that power of your subconscious to release whatever it is that needs releasing, so that you can be free to be pain-free, symptom-free. And it doesn't have to take years and years and years. All the sessions that I've done so far on pain has been just in 1 month. So, work with me, you can do it with, it's incredible, because when you're rewiring that mind so that it no longer shows up. It's not come back next week and talk about your pain. The post-traumatic stress that I had with a client who came in shaking and really scared, and just in that 1-2 hour session, she left feeling amazing and went out to buy a birthday card for her son, and she hadn't been shopping on her own for nearly 2 years. And now she's a gardener, she's a landscape gardener, and doing all the things that she wanted to do, living her life that she wants. And it was just, 1 month of working with me. And it's not come back next week every week. It's just, not countless sessions. They're weekly. And so it's doable, but it's such a needle shift in that
Mhm.
month. It's just, and if I hadn't sat through it all, I wouldn't necessarily have believed it myself, because it's just, wow. And when you wait, somebody in a session that comes in can't breathe and they leave being able to hold their breath, that is incredible. And
Mhm.
then you start sort of thinking, actually, maybe I can do this.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
and it does take some getting your head around, because your conscious mind is just sort of, what, that's not possible. But your
Mhm.
subconscious mind is it's way more powerful than any drug. And it's just an incredible thing. In fact, there is if anybody wants to have a look at it, Marissa Pierre and Angie on YouTube. Marissa Pierre is a lady that trained me, and Angie had got MS. No, she hadn't. She'd got she was born with all her one side all not very strong. I can't remember what it's called. I want to say muscular dystrophy, something like that.
Okay.
And so one side of her was weak. She hadn't got the muscle control of her arms and legs the way she wanted to. But if you Google Marissa Pierre and Angie, you'll see that her mind is just an amazing session. She actually felt her mind. She could see Marissa was talking to her and getting her mind to see the good side of her brain and getting all the neurons and seeing all those neurons fired up and transferring them into the other side of her mind that wasn't working so well. And there was actually a doctor in the audience who was performing the before and after to see the strength in her and how different her performance was. And it is incredible. So
Wow.
that's, Angie and Marissa Pierre is on YouTube.
Yeah, I love Marissa Pierre. As soon as you said her, you actually reminded me of her when we first started talking. And then as soon as you said her name, I was like, that's who I was thinking of. I
Oh,
I have seen so much of her work and am very much inspired by it. It's really incredible. And I know we started talking. I know about how you unblock those limiting beliefs or those roadblocks you put in yourself in your own way sometimes that we don't realize we're doing. But I think too is that if you are struggling with something with any kind of physical either pain or illness, psoriasis, I mean, those things can be they can stop you from taking those risks and pursuing things. I suffered from hyperhidrosis, and I actually had a surgery for it years ago, and it did work. It was a very invasive surgery, and it was a horrible recovery. If I would have known that I could have done it a lot easier and probably gotten very similar results, I wish I did know. But that I remember I had just started my career as a college professor, and I was so self-conscious about sweating. And it wasn't that I would just sweat all the time. It was more linked to, it was really bad when I was nervous. But it was kind of one of those things in certain areas, I would just be sweating all the time, and I would only wear black. And even now to this day, I wear so much black, even though I love color, but because in my head, I wore black for years of my professional career. The first 10 years, I would never wear like a light color, like a light solid color. A gray was out of the question. And after my surgery, my mom and dad bought me a gray cardigan because I was like, I just want to wear a gray shirt.
oh,
But it stopped me from you know, I'm a fairly outspoken person, but I know that once I got into that sort of professional area of my life, it would stop me from speaking up in a meeting. It would stop me from, volunteering to lead something in front of others, even though it wasn't an issue of whether or not I would do a good job. It was like, I don't know how sweaty I'm going to be. I don't know if my nerves are going to kick in. And I just couldn't do it. So I have friends that suffer from really bad psoriasis, and they don't go swimming. And when there's so many things that stop us from enjoying our life, that if there's at least, another option, if you've exhausted all other options, be open-minded and try, whether it is, rapid transformational therapy, would you say hypnotherapy? There's a lot of more holistic practices that I think can really help in a lot of these areas that people may not be open to, but maybe should give it a try. So I thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. And if you wanted to leave, what is one thing, if there was one key thing you wanted to leave our audience with today, either a piece of advice or a strategy or something to just keep in their mind, what would it be?
Just be careful what you tell yourself, because your mind's always listening and it believes everything you say. So
Yeah.
tell yourself good, positive words.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you for being here. I'll make sure that we are able to share your information that so our audience members can find you as well and connect with you. So thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so
yes,
much.
you're so welcome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into our final Zoom bonus session for today. Our cart is closing for registration at midnight tonight. So if you do have questions, if you want to reach out, you can connect with myself, with Maureen, with your concierge in the group. We're happy to answer any questions or provide you any further resources. So just reach out, and thank you guys for joining, and we will see you back here later in the week for our corner office chats on Thursday. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye.